I'm very excited to share with you the session that I'm going to be giving on the 20th with the wonderful Gemma and others who have organised this fantastic event. So I'll just give you a brief update on what teaspoons of change are, what I'll be talking about, some questions or provocations that you might want to rattle around in your brain before our session on the 20th, and for you to get a feel of what I'm trying to do around small actions and then fitting together to make a positive impact in the world. So I'm going to share some screen and go from a quick slide deck, take you through a couple of ideas and thoughts, provocations, and hope you can join me on the 20th. Cheers. So sharing screen here, and let me do the big version of that. Okay, so the co-inspiration on sustainability between generations. It's a good mouthful, but really what we're going to be looking at is, do your actions actually matter? Turning ideas into actions, so where you might have good intentions, but it can match good outcomes, and your own slice of positive impact. So we're going to create a teaspoons of change charter or list, something like that. But the place that I always start is here. These are the United Nations Global Goals for Sustainable Development, which again is a huge mouthful, so I just call them the global goals. But essentially they're a set of goals for us to try and work together to achieve big things that we can't do individually. But the trouble is that they seem too big for us, so that's why I created teaspoons of change, which is the idea of small actions or personal choices, decisions and actions that have a positive impact on people and the planet. So when we look at these big global goals, it's like, what the hell can I do? I don't know what to do. So thinking about, well, what can I actually do? What does that look like to me? If I want to support global goal number 5 and gender equality, what personal choices, decisions and actions can I take that will help do that? And in regards to sustainability, we'll have a look at sort of more of the environmental side of things, but certainly it comes down to equality, peace, justice, strong institutions, all these sorts of things. So we'll take a good look at these global goals, make a closer connection and create a relationship with them. And then I'm also going to share with you these good life goals. So the good life goals are just like the global goals, they match up, but they're a little more friendly and easier to understand. I'll also share a fantastic video of PPAP, if you're familiar with Pico Pico-san. He actually has a wonderful little video around the global goals. So I'll keep you with bated breath on that one. So teaspoons of change, the idea isn't just like, oh, we do small things and it'll make our air beautiful, like it is here in Adelaide, South Australia this morning, but also the fact that we care. And so teaspoons of change for me isn't just the light switch that we turn off. It's the fact that we have a connection to our actions and their impacts, and we turn off light switches because we know that it's using energy and we're trying to reduce our energy or protect our planet or be kinder to people, those sorts of things. So teaspoons of change, don't take it too literally that if I turn off a light switch, it's going to help the world. Yes, it will in a tiny, tiny way, but it's more about our attitudes, behaviors, habits, and actions that remind us of those small things that we can do on a daily basis. And the idea is around acting personally and locally and impacting globally. So knowing that when we don't use that plastic straw, that's actually having a big impact, not big impact, it's having an impact in the world, okay? Because 1 billion people individually say, oh yeah, I'll use a plastic straw. Whereas when we stop to say that we're not going to use that straw, that's when it starts to add up. And so 2 questions that I'll be throwing at you, and it's good for you to have a think about it now, is, are you a global citizen? So what does that mean to you? Are you a global citizen? What are your terms and conditions for being a global citizen? And the thing that I like is that there isn't a definition. Well, maybe there is a definition, but I don't care. What I'm more interested in is people having their own definition and what it means to them. And then this is a key sort of concept, I suppose, around teaspoons of change and global citizenship and sustainability, is that if we're doing our small little teaspoons of change, small things that have a positive impact, that connects us to being a better global citizen, which connects to achieving those global goals. And so when we're looking in the household and creating a list of teaspoons of change, we also want to know, how does that fit into a global context or a collective context using the global goals? And this also works in reverse. So if we want to achieve these big global goals, We need to think as global citizens and act in our teaspoons of change and adding them all up together. So are you a global citizen is the first provocation I'm going to leave with you. And the second one is, what does it mean to be an active and effective global citizen? And so I want you to have a think about that. What does it mean to be an active and effective global citizen? And hopefully you won't just come up with answers, but you'll come up with questions. So I hope you can bring those questions to the session on the 20th with me. And then we're going to look at some ideas around restorative and regenerative ideas and practices. And we're doing this across generations, which I'm very excited about. And what I'm looking for, what are some of the practices from our elders or our grandparents or societies that have come before us that were truly sustainable? You know, reusing the milk bottles and all sorts of fantastic approaches to living and life that we can learn from. So what I can see in my session is that we'll have young people learning from older people. We're going to have older people learning from young people, because younger people might have a better idea of the current trends in recycling or reducing or restorative ideas and practices, and older people might have the lived knowledge and experience of a time when plastic didn't exist or things weren't so convenient. So I think we're going to have a wonderful sharing across the ages of these ideas, and we're going to clump them all together and then create our own relevant list to ourselves as well. So my name is Darcy Lunn, with a strange spelling, but that's all right. And I've been very fortunate to work with many different organisations over many years, including the United Nations and creating Teaspoons of Change and many other different things. So I'm very excited to be joining you and having a chat with you on the 20th. Now, a key thing for me is that sustainability, global citizenship, all these sorts of things, they aren't just things that we do, but they need to be a part of who we are. And like I said, with Teaspoons of Change, it's not just switching off the light. It's the fact that I'm someone who switches off lights. That's where Teaspoons of Change becomes more significant. Yeah. So we'll delve into that. And ultimately, by the end of our session, we're going to come up with a beautiful little list of teaspoons of change, of action that you can put on your fridge or on your door or somewhere for your home. So it's very personal, very practical, and also how it links up to those global goals, so that when you turn off the tap or you reduce the amount of food waste you have, you know that it's fitting into a global context. And so we'll look at what does it mean to make good choices, good decisions, and good actions. Knowing that our small actions, if we do them on a daily basis, we multiply them by 365, and then we can multiply that by the number of years that we might be fortunate enough to live on the planet. And so if you're a younger person, that's many, many years. And if you're an older person, it's still a lot. So that's how we create big changes, with those small actions. So I want you to start thinking about, well, what are your teaspoons of change? What do they look like? What's relevant to you from your age, from your country, from your culture? And we're going to put them all together and put our teaspoons, line them up, create a list or a charter. And you could use that in your home or your workplace, at school, when you go on holiday. You know, we can thematically put all of these lists together, as I've done with many other organisations and places. So I've worked with businesses. So what does Teaspoons of Change look like at work? Your little list there. What's a list that's related to global goal number 12, responsible consumption and production? That might sound a bit boring, but we could create a list of, like, in the playground or whatever it is. And you might want to check out Teaspoons of Change website, where there's a few ideas on there. I've got a big page of teaspoons that might be relevant to you, but really what's more important is you have your own list that comes from you. And something else I might touch on is teaspoons of peace, being associated with Gemma and this wonderful occasion to come and present and talk and run a workshop with you. Comes from my love of peace and that with others, and looking at how the small things we can do that create a culture of positive peace. So there's a bit of stuff on there as well. And look, I've even got teaspoons of peace lists as well. So if we want to go down the list of things to add more peace into our home or our school or our workplace, we can focus on that as well. This comes from a master's that I did in peace studies in Japan a couple of years ago. So remember those global goals and good life goals. They're going to be really useful. We will take a nice, good look at them and make them relevant and practical in our life. So if you haven't seen them before, that is absolutely okay. In fact, that's the audience that I want, people who are new to this, so we can learn together, become familiar with these goals, and realize that our actions, personal and local, fit into a collective context and impact globally. And I have this little thing where I know that any action, even small actions, multiplied by lots of people, can and will create big change. So that's the premise for Teaspoons of Change. And I hope you'll get that feeling. And I know that you'll create a list and that will live through. So remember that little formula: small actions multiplied by lots of people equals big change. So we can see a better world for everyone, everywhere, and forever. And this is a photo of an Afghan refugee girl I met whilst working in Pakistan with polio. And she received her 2 drops of polio vaccine so that she could grow up without the fear of catching the preventable disease of polio. And so whenever I do a little teaspoon of change, I sort of think back to that moment. So you're riding my bike or whatever it is, you know, it does mean something in the world, just like those 2 little drops. So that's how I try and remind myself that my teaspoons of change are small, but significant. So there you go. We'll go for a delve into global citizenship, sustainability, teaspoons of change, lists, all sorts of wonderful things. And feel free to get in touch before or after that. But looking forward to joining you. And I hope that you will come with lots of questions and answers. It's going to be an interactive session, unlike this video. Cool. Well, thanks, folks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully that recorded, which means I won't have to do it again. But I look forward to seeing you all on the 20th if you can join in. Ciao. Cheers.